Easy, Roy. Easy does her. Got a long ways to go, brother.
I know. I'm getting second wind. I'm
Getting
ready to
ready?
roll.
Getting ready.
Yep.
Absolutely not.
No.
Yeah.
Actually, Devin, they all get 30 minutes. 3 for you.
I'll call to order this budget workshop of the Sweetwater County Board of County Commissioners. Thanks everyone for being here. We do have a quorum present. So we have Commissioner Shanefield online. Commissioner Wendling will be joining us shortly. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and then a short moment of silence afterwards. I pledge
allegiance to the flag
of the
United States of America
and
and to the republic for which it stands,
one
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion to suspend Robert's rules.
I'd so move.
Have a motion and a second. Excellent. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And thank you. There's Commissioner Shanefield. I saw her earlier. We are welcome to our 18th of 32 budget workshop sessions that we were planned to. No, not that many. I don't think. Feels like it. So thank you for being here. Appreciate that. Bonnie Berry, our accounting professional, is out currently. Mesquite, if I understand correctly. And so we don't have her expertise with us here today, but I brought my own book, and if you have any questions, I might be able to answer. I don't know, but I'm no Bonnie Berry. So with that, we are continuing our progress with just chatting really with our different entities that we help fund and looking for a brief update. Hopefully you're moving along with the budget process. Give us an idea where you are. We're mostly looking for more, less, same, this is why. And so we can have an idea of where things stand as we continue to consider the budget. So we do have 10 minutes set aside for each of you. We do have a couple of folks who have sent in information but aren't physically here. And so we may, we'll see when we get to that point, how we'd like to deal with that. So first up, Devin Brubaker with the airport. What do you got for us today, Devin?
I think this is on. There we are. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, do my best to provide a bit of a summary. We have completed our budget preparation for fiscal year 23. And while the direct impacts of the pandemic on the aviation industry begin to wane, the indirect impacts continue to impact us in an adverse way. To make matters worse, the unrest in Europe, coupled with a rapidly changing labor market, are creating additional headwinds. At the tail end of calendar year 21, the airport was well on its way to recovering from the near complete loss of air traffic experienced in April of 2020. Calendar year 21 passenger boardings increased by 67% compared to calendar year 20. But that still represented a decrease of 34.8% compared to calendar year 2019. This follows 3 years of robust passenger growth from 2016 to 2019 that totaled nearly 57%. The significant reduction in passenger traffic resulted in a reduction in airline flight frequency, which has had a drastic impact on revenues associated with airline landing fees, rental car commissions, and airline fuel sales. While we creep closer to 2019 numbers, much slower than we'd all like, in November and December, the airline industry started to feel some pressures that it had not experienced previously. For nearly a decade, there's been a growing concern about an impending pilot shortage that was caused by regulatory changes to pilot training requirements nearly a decade ago. The mandatory retirement age of 65 also continues to create issues for the industry. The pandemic exacerbated that already dire situation, forcing many major airlines to offer retirement incentives to more senior pilots to cut their payroll expenses due to the decrease in travel demand. Now that travel has recovered to near pre-pandemic levels nationwide, these major airlines found themselves severely understaffed. That resulted in those major airlines hiring hundreds of pilots every month from regional carriers like SkyWest Airlines, which has left the regional carriers short on pilots and short on resources. The pilot shortage became evident right at the very tail end of December, and it resulted in thousands of flight cancellations nationwide, including here in Sweetwater County. Those cancellations continued for the first 2 weeks of this year, and it continued to wreak havoc. The airline industry recognized pretty quickly that they could not continue to operate with thin margins in terms of pilot resources. So they cut flights back nationwide. About 30% of flight capacity was reduced nationwide. Here in Rock Springs and Sweetwater County, we lost half of our flights. So we're down to 1 flight a day. That began on February 1st, continues today, and will likely last through most of 2022. To make matters worse, the unrest in Europe has caused aviation fuel prices to reach record high levels. Just in the last 7 days, we've been selling jet fuel at $7.11 a gallon, which is a record high retail price for jet fuel. Coupled with record high inflation for other services and supplies, the higher fuel prices will present a challenge that will cause most airlines to either increase airfares or to file bankruptcy. Since the beginning of January, we've seen nationwide an increase in airfares by 40% to try to cover up for those increased costs. Either of those solutions, either bankruptcy or those increased fares, are going to result in an outcome that will likely reduce passenger demand once again. The higher cost aviation fuel will put downward pressure on fuel uplifts, resulting in fewer gallons sold in the upcoming year. And while fuel sales have returned to about 85% of pre-pandemic levels, we are forecasted a reduction to about 65% of pre-pandemic levels in fiscal year 23. That further is exacerbated, the reduce in flight schedules further exacerbating the reduction in rental car commission revenues, landing fees, terminal advertising, and concessions. Luckily, Congress recognized the importance of the air transportation system and provided relief in all 3 COVID relief bills in CARES, CRISA, and ARPA. For Rock Springs, that totaled just a hair over $3.3 million of relief. As we continue to look forward, fiscal year 23 is looking murky at best. Full recovery is not expected till 24, 25, and maybe even later, which has led us as the board and staff to take a conservative approach to utilizing those COVID relief funds. And I'll hurry up here. I'll get to the numbers. I want to lay the groundwork a little bit. As we go into fiscal year 23, our forecasted operating revenues are just under 3 million. So between 2.9 and 3 million, which is an increase of 39% compared to fiscal year 21 actuals, and an increase of 35.2 over fiscal year 22 approved budget. Where we're seeing the largest increases in revenue is general aviation, which is what you see industry-wide. Our line items seeing the largest decrease in revenue are anything that has to do with airlines, basically. Operating expenses are projected to be 3.77 million. This represents an increase of 34.8% over fiscal year 21 and an increase of 28.8% over the fiscal year 22 approved budget. Largely liability and property insurance is skyrocketing in the aviation industry. Our cost to buy fuel is skyrocketing. Utilities, labor, and janitorial services and supplies continue to rise. We also did include a 5% adjustment for all employees except for the director. So all of our hourly employees includes a 5%
And he gets
adjustment.
25, right?
Mine was increased recently. The board did do a performance evaluation, increased mine previously. So,
Okay.
Our non-operating income will total 1.48 million, and that's largely reserve carryover, state grant revenues, city and county support, customer facility charges, passenger facility charges, etc. Non-operating expenses, largely capital outlay, debt service, and reserves is going to be just a hair under 2.6 million. We have total capital outlay outside of the commercial terminal modernization is a couple $100 short of $1 million. That's largely our airport master plan that will be funded with the federal and state grants. Oh, let's see here. Reserves carryover. We intend to carry $930,000 of emergency/cash flow reserve into fiscal year 23. This represents 89.9 days cash on hand, which is below our target of 100 days cash on hand. We regularly utilize this to be able to make our payments, but even with that amount of money on hand, there's often times that we're sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars of capital construction payables that we can't afford to pay until revenues come in. For those of you that have served as liaisons to our board, you've seen that when you see our bank account balance on paper being negative 1.1 million, negative 1.2 million. It's because we just don't have enough cash to pay our bills. We will also carry $584,259 in restricted reserves, and that's for capital replacement and FA restricted reserves that we have to keep. So overall, our operating and capital requests to the city and the county, even with all that said, will be a reduction of 4.84% to the city and the county. If you all would remember, last year, we provided a 30% reduction to the city and the county as well. So that was after several years of other reductions, and that's not counting terminal funding. We haven't included that historically in our operating and regular capital request. Air service wise, it's not as good of a news story. And I can't share specific details with you yet because negotiations are still ongoing with the state and the local communities and SkyWest. But I would expect your contribution as the county to, I hate to say this out loud, but a little bit more than triple. So the allocation in fiscal year 22 was $231,688, and we're expecting around a 225% increase to that. And I could go into great detail about that, or we can have a separate conversation one-on-one or in another meeting, but I know there's people behind me that would like to get home. So
That's the SkyWest.
that's the SkyWest number,
So
yes.
Okay. So give me numbers 1.017, 1.018 last year was your request. What's the dollar request airport?
The airport request, $371,231.
That's what your request this year is,
Yeah,
Devin?
$371,231.
What was it last year?
With terminal funding, it was $1,017,000 and change. Yeah, with that,
That was 700,000 over that term.
yeah, without the terminal, it's a 4.84% reduction. With the terminal, it's, I don't know, huge number reduction. So
I just remember last year there was we knew we had a one-time payment because of the terminal deal that would be up. So I will tell you, I bet everyone behind you is glad they're going after you after they told you, tell us it's going to be a 225% increase on the subsidy to SkyWest, because I don't think anyone else can come in with that high of an increase. So you made everyone look better, Devin.
yeah, that was my goal. No, what we can control, we're trying to continue to drive our dependency on the city and county lower, as I've committed to you since I walked in the door nearly 7 years ago. And we're continuing to do that. We're getting closer and closer. The air service situation, the economics of air service nationwide have shifted in a way that we will never see what we saw in fiscal year 22 again. I can just tell you that the new reality of air service in the future for small communities has completely changed. Our only hope at this point is to get the federal government to change the essential air service program to allow us to re-enter that program. We used to be in it in the early 2000s and into the 90s, but they changed the law back in 2011. And so there's efforts to change it back to the old way of doing things, which would allow us back into there, which would be 100% federal funding for air service. So we're working that angle in Washington, but I would not hold your breath on it. So
We don't hold our breath on much in Washington. Questions for Mr. Brubaker from here in the House?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd just like to say that I think a few others need to take the page out of your playbook, because when you came in here 7 years ago, you made the commitment to being self-funded. And I believe you would have been there had the pandemic not hit us. I truly believe that for the city and county. Only because of your aggressiveness to look at grants and other places for funding to relieve the pressure on the counties and that in the support they're giving to others. So I wish others maybe would have taken a page out of your playbook over the last 7 years and would be as aggressive in the request from outside funding to reduce their capitalization on the county. I just want to say thank you. And I think you came aboard about the time I did. And
It's all you, Doc. It's all you.
just keeping your toes to the fire, man. But anyway, I just want you to know you've done that. I believe you would have been there. I still believe you will get there. I truly do. And you're showing that even at a 4.8% decrease in funding from last year at a time in which I'm sure there'll be many holding their hands out. But thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I was just going to say what Doc said, and then I do agree that we would have been there with almost a zero subsidy or close to it if we wouldn't have had the pandemic and the changes in the airport industry. And I commend the changes and the dedication to get there. So
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
how's the terminal project progressing as far, are we still on target for December completion?
I was having a good day.
Oh, sorry. Rewind.
There's not a single construction project that I know exists in this country that's on schedule right now. I'll preface that.
on
With
budget.
we are well, or on budget. We're best case scenario is 6 months behind schedule right now. And it's combination of supply chain challenges, some contractual challenges that we're facing, but largely supply chain challenges and even labor to a certain extent. When we have our earthwork contractor only able to show up with 3 employees, it becomes problematic to get a lot of work done. And they're trying to hire. You just can't find people right now that want to actually do hard labor, it seems like. So, but yeah, and it's prevailing wage job, so it pays real darn good. So,
Bummer.
yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate having been your liaison to the airport, and I will continue to try to attend your meetings. And I appreciate your innovation and flexibility. You know, when the sewers all went defunct, you shifted gears and figured out how to take care of the whole airport instead of just the terminal. So I've enjoyed watching the improvements, and thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
Commissioner Shanefield, anything from you?
No, I echo what everybody has said, and you've consistently stuck to your word, and I think you're doing a great job out there. I'm excited to see when it gets done, how the terminal project looks. And thank you, Devin.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Devin. Appreciate your time and efforts, and keep it up. Board of Health. Come on down, Kim.
I'm someone that needs handout. I'm not quite as self-sufficient as the airport board. Good afternoon. At this point in time, I anticipate requesting at least the same amount as what we received last year, which was $539,255. That was a 20% cut from the previous year before that. We were able to float through this last year with quite a bit of injection fees from COVID injections. It's the most injection fees we've ever received at the Board of Health. And that really is our only form of revenue that we get on our own. So everything else that we get is through the Department of Health. And so right now I'm still waiting on them to provide me with the amounts that they will be providing us, which is about 43% of my budget. So I hope to have those numbers by Friday the 8th when this budget has to be submitted, but I am still waiting on a significant portion of our budget to know what to request. Our injection fees for COVID injections are going to be decreasing significantly as we've kind of tapped out who is getting COVID shots. Right now, we're in a little bit of a rush with that 4th booster, but I don't know that that will last very long. And then our injection fees will mainly go back to our normal regular immunizations. So just for instance, this year we've done over 200,000 in injection fees. 150 of that came from insurance reimbursement. 40,000 came from HRSA payments. HRSA payments are going to stop on the 5th of this week, tomorrow. And then 18,000 was our regular immunization that we do, just COVID or not non-COVID related. So our childhood immunizations, adult immunizations that we built private insurance for. So the majority of our insurance of our COVID injection fees is kind of what flowed us through with our cuts last year. And we do have a pretty good cash on hand currently because we have done well with COVID. We have received funding to help cover the costs of our expenditures and stuff like that. So that's kind of where the Board of Health is right now with funding request and a lot of unknown at the same time.
So when you say expect at least last year's 939,
539.
excuse me, 539.
539. Yeah.
What would, yeah, there it is right there, 539. What would change that? Obviously funding from the state? Is that
Yeah,
what you're-
if the numbers are similar to what they provided us previously in the previous biennium, then it would be the same amount that I would requesting. If it comes back with a significant cut to those funding amounts, then that could be an increase that we request from the county.
And what have you heard anything? What's the rumor? Nothing? Nothing.
Nothing.
Friday,
Last
no
Monday, we
rush.
had a call. They were supposed to get those award letters out last Monday. And then there was a last minute call where the TANF amounts they were expecting to be cut, but they had no idea how much of a cut. So they were having to go back and refigure and rework all of those things. So previously, our state general funds for our maternal child health programs, those got cut from the state during our biennium by about $30,000. And so right now I have no idea where we are with the state general funds for MCH services, the TANF funding, or the state funding that we do for all of the other public health services that aren't related to maternal child health.
Very good. Questions? Comments?
Mr.
Concerns?
Chairman,
Yes.
good afternoon. How are you? Thanks for being here. Hey, you mentioned 4 other funding sources, a state and a couple others in federal. Is that all you get money from for funding outside of what's taken place over the COVID?
For the most part. So we get federal funding for the emergency preparedness program. I know how much that one is. I get funding for the county health officer. There's still supplemental to that program from county funds, but I know those 2 amounts. The other ones that we would do would be services that we provide. They're called LT 101 assessments. Public health nursing are the only people in the state that can do those assessments. So there's other little trickle amounts that come in for things, but the majority, the large chunks are the state fundings and that federal.
So those four funding sources equal that 43% you were talking about?
Yeah, so this,
And if they go up, then your request to us will go down?
yes.
Okay. How much do you have on reserve?
Right now, they're in reserves. My retained earnings is about 1.2 million. Is what I
I'm
have.
sorry, back up a minute. In reserves?
I have just one bank account. All of
Okay.
it is just in one account.
No,
So
you mean
I don't
even all
like
your
have-
general expenditures are in one account?
Everything is just in one bank account. Yep, I just pull it goes into one account and it goes out of one account. So there's not really
So
separate
at the end of the
accounts.
year, what will you have left over in your general fund, do you think?
Right now, I anticipate about 1.2 million in my bank account at the end of,
At the end of June 31st, you have 1.2 million in there.
that's what I anticipate.
And
Yeah.
that money in that reserve are primarily COVID money? Is that correct? No.
That's going to be like the state MOU funding that we get quarterly. That's going to be the TANF funding.
Okay, so that's your 43%
Right.
plus what the county gives you.
Correct.
Can you
Correct.
sort that out?
Yes.
Please do, and let us know. Would you please?
Sort it out as in,
What is county funding
yeah. Yes, I know like for my environmental
of
health,
the 1.2?
Yes.
What is county funding?
yes.
And what is the funding you get from those sources?
It's the 539, 255 is the county funding. Everything else is going to be the other revenue sources.
On June 31st?
June 30th?
Yeah, which is the end of the fiscal year.
Yes.
So if you have 1.2 million left carried over and you're asking for 539 million, huh?
139,000.
Pardon me?
539,000.
539,000, I'm sorry. So that's, am I correct when I say that? You have 1.2 on July 1st or on June 31st.
30th.
And then on July 1st, you'll, from the county as well as the state, you'll receive another 1.2.
No.
I'm, am I reading it wrong?
No.
Mr. Chairman, will you help me?
She'll have 1.2 million in the bank account, but that is their one and only operating account. That'll be, how many days cash on hand is that to roughly?
So the formula that was on this form, I'm not entirely certain where the operating number came from. So you get your operating revenue divided by 365. That was already automatically generated. So I'm not sure. I asked Bonnie, but Bonnie's not here right now. I'm not sure what the operating revenue is. If that operating revenue, like my expenditures, my monthly expenditures for the year is different than that number, then that could not, it could be a different number. But right now that formula showed me at 244 days cash on hand. But I don't know what that operating expense is that was automatically generated in the revenue or the on that formula on the funding request form.
And so last year, your total funding overall was 2.2 million roughly, from what I see.
Right. So, so my current fiscal year 22 budget with 539 with county funding, all of the revenues came into 1.5 million for a total revenue of just over 2 million. And then my expenses were just over 2 million. So that actually was a negative 51,000. Year to date right now, I'm sitting
That's what
at
you're
a
asking.
net income of 5,458
You can
right
see,
now.
Wow, you know how to, 5,000, it's a lot of work for $5,000, isn't it?
that is. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
One other thing.
Did we
have
get there,
you-
Doc?
Huh?
That's what we were looking for, right?
Yeah, I was
Okay.
looking for that. Thank
All
you.
right.
And I just probably wasn't asking the right question. I apologize, Kim.
So that's okay.
No,
I'm
everybody
a
does.
nurse and not like an accountant, so I try to do my best.
I know your accountant. I'm gonna have to tell her to get her house in order so Doc can understand it.
Fair enough.
No, I'm kidding, really. Hey, any other grants or anything?
No,
Okay,
nope,
all right. And how much you get from city?
nothing.
Okay,
We've
very
never
good.
gotten anything from either.
Never have.
city.
I didn't think so. I didn't know if they were or not. So,
Nope.
all right, kiddo. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions?
Well,
Including from Commissioner Schaefer?
It will seem like I didn't hear what Doc just asked you, but I don't quite understand how on June 30th, you have 1.5 carryover.
So I'll have like 1.2 million sitting in my bank account June 30th. So that would include the other revenue sources that I get, state, county monthly, the revenues from the MCH services, and then, you know, all the payroll that goes out too. So that's just what's been kind of sitting in my bank account.
To help Kim out, I think that this is also something like we see with a golden hour, where she'll get a chunk of money quarterly. Here's a whole bunch of money, but it has to last you
Correct.
a quarter, 6 months, a year.
Correct.
So that's how much you'll have in the account. But then, so overall, looking at the overall budget, it's actually going to be a little $51,000 less this year than last year. Did I say that right?
I think so.
About that?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like we pay for everything up front and then get reimbursed for anything we do. And then we do get that quarterly payment that lasts several months too. Yes. Thank you.
We've had it with others where we're like, well, it's a ton of money, but they're like, yeah, we don't get any more the rest of the
Right.
whole fiscal year. It's like,
Right.
oh, okay, that makes sense.
Right.
I have to pay for everything from here on out.
Right.
Other questions? Does that make sense, Mary?
Yeah,
Is that,
thank
okay.
Thanks.
Lauren, anything?
No, I'm good. It makes sense. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You're off the hook, just
Okay,
like that. Thank you, Kim. YWCA, I believe, are not going to appear today, but does in our packet have
Kayla's up there too.
numbers. in
Mr.
case
Chairman?
somebody's- Yes.
They're online. I
Hi,
think they
Kayla.
have 3 people actually online.
Three
Kayla and
people. Then I
Hey.
misunderstood.
So
up,
I'm
Kayla?
Kayla Manico, the development director with the Y, and Cheryl is also on. So you guys did receive a written statement from Melinda Boss. She had already been scheduled to be out of the state when this was scheduled. So unfortunately, she's not here, but I'm kind of filling in her shoes, and Cheryl's here to help if we have any questions that I can't answer. So you guys received Melinda's statement, but I'll just kind of break it down a little bit. So in March of 2020, YWCA was cut significantly from the state. So it's federal funding that gets passed through the state for DV services. We were cut significantly enough that we actually had to cut 3 total positions. Then in March of 2021, we had the cuts from the county. And so the last couple of years, our board has really, especially this year, our board has really went through our budget after staff went through it, and we've eliminated every possible thing that we felt we could eliminate with still being able to provide the same amount of services to clients in Sweetwater County. So that included things like technology services and different things like that, including positions. And so basically, if we were cut beyond the 10% now for fiscal year 2023, we feel like we've already cut everything else. It would mean that we'd have to cut more staff positions, and it would change the way that the Y operates. If we were cut the 30 to 50%, that would basically mean the Y would change even significantly more on how they operate. As so, we've had conversations of the programs actually splitting up and becoming their own nonprofits, because we just simply wouldn't have the staff. We wouldn't be able to pay the staff to do certain job duties. So that's kind of a quick overview of her statement. We are asking for $238,452, which is the same amount that you awarded us last year. So it's a 0% increase, 0% decrease that we'll be asking. And our application is done. We'll be submitting that on Wednesday. Did you guys have any questions from Melinda's statement or anything I said today?
Perfect questions amongst. I will say, sorry, I have little dashes next to my agenda here that Sally put on, and they mean different things. And so that dash apparently didn't mean that you weren't here. So I apologize, Kayla. It's good to see you.
That's
Questions?
okay.
No, pretty straightforward.
Well, Mr. Chairman.
Go right ahead, Doc.
Yeah, Kayla, what programs does the YWC fund with this money?
So the funding specifically will go to the financial education program, the early care and learning center program, and the Center for Families and Children. We do have a chart kind of broken up for you guys that we'll be turning in with our application of what the numbers look like. But if you wanted me to go into any more detail now, I could. But I have, let's see, that's basically it. It'll just be going into those 3 programs.
Thank you. Now, if they're in the a chart with your app, that'll be good enough. Is your application containing where else you have attempted to get funding? Grants
Yes.
and stuff like that?
Yes, so we've applied for more than 25 to 26 grants. And then on top of that, we have been sending out more funding requests than we have in the past. We've noticed with COVID, I know everyone's struggling, but we've noticed certain funders have actually changed what they fund, because because of COVID. So they specifically want it to be COVID related or related to something else. So we've had challenges, but I can say we've had an increase in what we're applying for. We have had different funds that we've actually received that we've been fortunate to receive. But we're still struggling, and moving forward, we are trying to build our donor database. And we also have the endowment, which our board is really working hard on building, because our hopes is potentially the endowment investments will actually be able to pay for one of our staff positions that we're struggling with funding right now. So that's our goal. That's kind of what we've been working on. But I feel like over the last year and this upcoming year, we'll really be able to build that and kind of have that endowment as our backbone.
And the last question is will your application contain the dollars that you have in your endowment as well as reserves?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Other questions?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Go ahead.
You're the only domestic violence shelter in the county. How do you fund that?
So the county is a big part of that funding. So as we get funds from the state to help fund that, and then there's other state funding like VOCA that'll help fund those specific programs.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Kayla, I was writing something down when Commissioner Toman was getting that answer to that question. You said, did I hear correctly that you said the county helps fund the domestic violence primarily?
Correct.
Thank you. And how much is that?
For this upcoming year, I have a little under $70,000. Cheryl, is that correct?
Is that part of the Center for Family?
Yes. So the domestic
Okay.
violence services, all of those services are through the CFC.
All right.
And they get funded a little bit through the state for certain positions, but the county also, the funding we get from you guys also helps cover those services.
Yeah, the county portion is about 34% in the application, and basically the rest in round numbers comes from state and federal.
Thank you, Cheryl. Appreciate that. Thank you, Kayla.
Roy, do you have something?
No, I think one just point of clarification. I think when we were able to see the new forms for the outside entities come in, I think it will answer a lot of the questions Doc is asking, specific to how much money would go to this part of the organization and this part of the organization, and break it down to make it make more sense as we are able to take a look at those. And I also think it answers some of those questions regarding what are the grants you're seeking, what are the new grants and those things. So I think a lot of those questions will be answered as we start to see those requests come in this week. So
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Just
Nice.
old dog with old tricks. Or new tricks.
I did want to let you guys know, first off, I appreciate you guys letting us do this virtually. With gas prices and driving to Green River and stuff, it makes it difficult. So thank you guys. And then with the new grant application, I did find that I was very blunt with some of our answers. And so, like, for example, asking how many grants or what other grants we've applied for, I wasn't able to list even a portion of those because the lines are limited and the font gets so small. And so it's very kind of vague about it. But if you guys have any further questions at all that isn't covered on the application, please reach out and we can get you any information that you guys may need.
Thanks, Kayla. That's great.
I have a question on that form, because I thought Bonnie was supposed to make it so that it would
Expand, right?
expand as you typed.
So it
evidently-
continues to, you can continue typing. However, the
It's
font
gets
gets
small.
very
Yeah.
The
small.
box,
so it
And
is
so-
fillable, but it just
It's all right.
fits to the box.
it's a living document, so we'll work on it. Thank you, Kayla. Appreciate hearing that.
Okay, absolutely.
Candy's shaking her head no as well. So we made, you can type as much in there as you want. We just didn't make the box any bigger. So, okay. I Well, I guess we mean to be specific in what we ask for, right?
Yeah, double bifocals.
We want to make sure that they can type as much as they want and we can read it.
Well, I think any comments you have on the form and the questions, I think we would welcome them and wouldn't penalize you if you say that's a stupid question, or if you think it could be worded differently, or
We're open to
I think
feedback
that,
whenever.
I think that would be helpful. So we can continue to refine that form a little bit.
Lauren, did you have anything?
I really like the new layout. I would say that was the main thing we struggled with was, we're like, we could say so much, but it doesn't fit. And I don't know if they can read it. So what we did was we printed it to see if maybe it prints differently than it shows, and it didn't. And so some of it is small, but we felt like it was needed to answer your question effectively. So I hope you could use magnifying glasses or you can just reach out and we can let you know, but we did keep it to those lines to try and make it easy for you guys to read too. So, but yeah, very nice application.
Thank you.
One question, Kayla. Was the line for where you requested the amount of money you needed, was that big enough?
Fortunately for you, yes, it was.
It's only be the airport subsidy.
I couldn't resist. Thank you, Kayla.
That line's plenty big.
Thank you
Lauren,
guys.
anything else?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Lauren.
Sorry, I've been trying to interject and it's hard when you're virtual. But I wanted to go back and just ask about the funds for the CFC and how much of that is actually needed for matching funds, because I know that is something that's a big deal for grant funding, is there's often matching funds with state and federal dollars, and I just wanted to know how much of that was included.
Well, whatever we get for VOCA, Lauren, it has to be a 20% outside source match. So between county, United Way, and outside donations, we would have to come up with 20%. That's been, they put that on hold during COVID, but we've been informed that it's going to come back for the next fiscal year.
Thank you, Cheryl. I wanted to make sure that was out there just so that everybody, for the public and for us to know that is taken into account for federal dollars too. So thank you.
That our $1 turns into 5 more. So that's great. 4 more, 5 more. Anyway, any other questions, comments? Okay. Thank you very much for your time, Cheryl, Kayla. Appreciate you being here. And we'll look forward to seeing your application, as tiny as it may be. That'll be great.
Thank you.
Young at Heart, that one, I believe this little dash next to it means, do we have anybody from Young at Heart? Okay, come on up. I don't know what these dashes, I have no idea what these dashes mean then that Sally put on my agenda. Welcome aboard.
Good afternoon. Commissioners, my name is Ruth Lauritsen, and I am the brand spanking new Executive Director of the Golden Hour Senior Center. And I will say right now, I might not be able to answer all of your questions because, like I said, I'm very new at it, but I hope that I can answer sufficiently for you. I'm here.
Let me
today.
start with one
Yes.
thing first. We were looking for Young at Heart first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're great. I don't think, but because I don't think anybody is here for Young at Heart. So maybe that's what my dash did mean.
Yeah, Young at Heart sent an email. It's in our packet.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
I thought that was the same with Kayla though, and I was wrong. So I just wanted to make sure.
I heard
So-
Senior Center and I just went click.
Right. So I don't believe anybody from Young at Heart's here. It is in our packet. So please look at the packet, click on the link.
Okay.
Carry on. Yes.
Thank you.
From Golden Hour. Yes.
I'm here today to present a brief overview of the request for funding that we will be making this fiscal year. The amount we are requesting is $211,800. This is $61,800 more than last year's funding of $150,000. The reason for this increase is that myself and the board of Golden Hour would like for you to consider restoring some of the funding that was not given last year for our staff. It is my understanding that we may do with some COVID funds, but those have mostly dried up this year. And we would also like to give a 6% COLA increase to our staff. We understand that is what the county is doing for their people, and we would like to mirror that. As we know, the cost of living is going up and salaries and wages have failed to keep up with the growth. We are especially cognizant of the importance of keeping wages competitive because unfortunately at Golden Hour, we do not offer insurance for our employees because of cost. All funding we receive from Sweetwater County goes to wages for our kitchen staff, partial wages for some of our office staff, and salary for a contract accountant. Without this funding, we would not be able to staff our kitchen, which supports one of our central programs, the service of free and low-cost meals to seniors in Green River. Furthermore, without county funding, we could lose federal grants, which also support this program, as we would be unable to make the required local match. Recreation programs for seniors would also suffer, as our activities coordinator is partially paid with county funds. This staff member is vital to our efforts to engage our seniors and keep them active both physically and mentally. County funds also pay part of the wages of the office manager, who's instrumental in enrolling seniors in programs and notifying them of upcoming events. We at Golden Hour are very aware of the generosity of Sweetwater County. We appreciate very much the use and maintenance of our facility, which is in a county-owned building. Without the help of Sweetwater County government, it would be very difficult to offer services to our most honored citizens, our seniors. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Questions that we may have?
Well, it looks like you've stepped right up to the plate.
Through in the fire. Thrown in the
All of
fire.
that museum experience must have paid off.
Well, I'm not exactly new at this.
Thank you.
Doc, anything?
No,
No, keeping it
not right now.
Lauren?
Mr. Chairman, I'm curious as to how the number of services is comparing. I know that there was a dip in services a little bit during COVID, but then there was also a huge increase as COVID kind of caught up with everybody. And I was just curious to see what that looks like now.
We are getting more and more seniors into the facility. We still are responding to COVID by doing what we call curbside pickup of meals. And we're hoping to decrease that because we would really like people to come into the building. There's so much more to the senior center than a meal. There's fellowship and there's recreational activities and exercise opportunities and many different things. Services we're down, obviously, but we have during COVID, but we have bounced back. We served about 1,000 more meals fiscal year 22 than we did in 21. And so we are continuing to bounce back from COVID. We have discontinued the mask rule and people are really enjoying that and they're enjoying seeing each other's faces again.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I figured that was the case, but I wanted to hear it. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions?
And I'm sorry, I missed your first name.
Ruth,
Ruth. I'd just like to welcome you. and
thank
say
you.
You got big steps to move in and plus big job ahead of you. And we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
And just coming in as early as you have, it wouldn't be fair to hit you with a lot of questions that
Thank you.
that
But I'm learning every day.
Well,
I
you're-
learned something.
you're drinking from a fire hose.
Yes,
Yes, you are. So,
Yes.
but anyhow, that's okay. You'll catch up and you have good help there. So
yes, very much.
anyhow, but thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
And then I will point out that the request up to 211 from 150 is still less than the fiscal year 19 was almost 219
Mhm.
and fiscal year 2020 was almost 230. So still not back to the funding that they had previously, but just for reference. Anything else? Questions? Okay. Thank you, Ruth. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Welcome aboard. Come visit us anytime. Conservation District. Hello.
Welcome.
Oh, good.
Karen, Tom.
Glad to be here with you guys again. We are here to provide a little bit of budget information. We've got we're asking for a total of 221,000, which is the same amount we asked for last year, which was a 20% reduction from the year before, which was a 10% reduction the year before that. So we've had 30% reduction in the last two budget cycles. And this year, we're just asking for the same as we asked for last year. We've got the same projects working on the various creeks and drainages in the county, which we discussed with you last month on when we gave you a briefing there. Our workload is not going to diminish because of one of the main things we do is work with the federal organizations, the BLM and the Forest Service on land use plans and various other plans that they have that we're the elected body, I guess, that has a seat at the table for those negotiations and stuff. And all of the plans that were done the previous 4 years are now going to be redone anyway. They all have to get all of them gone through again, all of the land plans, transportation plans with the Forest Service and the BLM. We still have the listings on the streams for Bitter Creek and the Kilpecker Creek. We have projects in small water development projects in the county that we need to have matching dollars for grants to do these projects. Let's see.
Tom, can I ask, when you talk about grants, are those just specifically grants that you apply for with
Yes,
this matching funding?
we apply
right?
for those grants.
And so
Karen,
not through our
no, it's not through
office
the
at all,
county.
with-
It's all the
and not their
grants.
budget.
We do all that work. We have assistance on some of them from the Wyoming Association of Conservation Districts on getting it
Awesome.
right. And basically, in our discussions, we submit our budget, I think, on by the 8th. We have our meeting on Friday. Yep, and we've got everything written up. We discuss it and approve it on Thursday and get it to you guys on Friday.
Perfect.
And like I say, that's a total of a 30% cut from our 3 year ago. We took 20% last year, 10% the year before that. And we think we can make do with the same amount that we got last year.
Good. Do you have any reserves? Is there any such thing? in the
We have,
conversation?
where was that? 34,
34,000.
yeah, $34,329.18.
Other questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Tom or
Yes.
Karen, when you submit the forms to us, will all these projects be listed out?
Yeah, on your spreadsheet.
And- Okay, and then for the projects that you need matching funds for county dollars, will those be listed separately from projects that you need matching funds from these other agencies, or are they all projects that need matching funds from the county?
We can separate that for you.
Would you please?
Make it more clear.
Yeah, would you
what
please?
kind of- What amounts of money would be, we need a 30% match on our Department of
Oh, yeah.
Agriculture grant.
Yes, I knew you needed
Mhm.
much more than just
So we can
20%, but yeah,
separate that out for you.
excuse me, hang on a second. What's the matter, Cindy?
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, you guys have to talk into it. Otherwise it doesn't get recorded and they'll just think
Sorry.
I'm talking to a ghost.
We'll go ahead and separate that out for you guys so you can see what specific kind of grants we're applying for. We're going to apply for another one. It's due in May, so we'll make sure that we specify what kind of grants we're applying for and the match money on those.
Okay, very good. A couple other conversation pieces that over the years. Is there still the conversation of changing the boundaries for the conservation district with Little Snake River?
There is some discussion ongoing right now to try to provide better service to our constituents that are on the eastern part of the county. They're a mill levy district over there, and they've written several $100,000 worth of grants to get with. We've been contributing $20,000 a year to them to help with these projects, and then they use that for matching. And they take care of all that grant writing and stuff for those projects for those folks on the east.
And does the engineering come out of that 20,000?
Everything comes out of, yes.
Yeah, it's pretty much
We
all
just
of it.
give them the lump sum and they use it for they have an engineer on staff. And, they take care of all those projects for the folks on the eastern side.
Yeah, and I do know that as a conservation district may come closer to that decision if it's one they choose to endorse. Before you do, will you please come and talk with us?
Yeah.
Because there's some implications there that, I have more questions about, but not right now.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the other question was, do you anticipate any more funding for the drop structure out at Little Bitter Creek?
There's maintenance dollars in there.
There is.
In our project dollars.
All right.
It's an ongoing thing. This year, we're doing some, that's coming out of last year's money, not on this budget.
Yeah.
And that's,
You got to talk into the microphone, Tom, please.
that's coming.
You got to
that's coming-
you almost got to eat the thing. I mean, like this.
No chocolate on it.
I know it, but otherwise they can't get you recorded.
Okay. Those dollars are coming out of our previous budget to pay for the repairs that we're doing this
Okay.
year.
Very good. I knew I had another question, but if I think about it, I'll get hold of you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good. Thanks.
Other questions we may have?
I
ahead,
don't
Mary.
have a question, but carry on with good work. And I just want to let you know that the county does have a draft plan now for federal resource. And I'll try to get the draft to you. It will go through planning and zoning. We did 2 workshops and they were pretty excited to learn about the federal lands in the county, the planning and zoning board. So it will go for their final approval on the 13th. You're welcome to Zoom in or come. And I'll send you the draft so you can comment before then if you want to. Then it will come to the commission for final approval on the 19th. Then it goes out for the public comment period and we'll finalize it in June.
If you could send that, we'd
Yeah.
appreciate it.
I will.
Thank you.
Roy, Lauren, anything?
No, I remembered my other question.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
all right, there it is.
Answer to.
Yeah,
Has there been any more conversation about the conservation district going as a special district?
We've unofficially
Wait.
done that. We've talked about it. It'll probably be discussed at our Thursday meeting also.
Okay, thank you.
Roy, Lauren?
Thank you. Are we done?
She might have a question.
Hear that. Are we done?
Nothing, Lauren?
Nope, I'm good. Sorry.
All right,
Did you not hear me?
good. Tom, Karen, you're excused.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate your work. Youth Home.
Yes, I'm here.
There he is. Hello, Dave. How you doing?
Good.
Thanks for showing up today.
Thank you for having me for this. Appreciate it.
Tell us a story.
Basically, what we're looking at with the upcoming budget process is that looking at the potential of requesting a 10% restoration of monies that have been reduced in the past several years with the youth home, with the budget with the county. That would take it, currently we're sitting at around 123,000 for our budget information from the county. And what that would be looking at is replacing 15,000 to make that a total of 139,000 total. And part of that is what we're looking at is we continue to continually struggle with our monies we get from the state for our crisis placements. The State Department of Family Services has only ever really funded the youth home with about 79% of the actual cost that it costs us to run a crisis shelter for 6 placements of kids. And we have to make that up somewhere else. And that's what we try to do with funding through the county, through the cities, those types of things. Other questions that you might all have?
Questions for David?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, right.
Yeah, and David, thank you for presenting. I guess my first question would be days cash on hand, because if I remember last year that you guys had a significant amount of days cash on hand in reserves. Could you tell me where you're currently at?
Currently, we are sitting at approximately 60 days as far as the amount of time we can go out with that. We do, and with the county, and you all have noted that before, we do have some reserves as well that we had built up over the years when we were all much more affluent with monies coming in and that type of thing. The thing that bothers myself and the board of directors for the youth home is hit in the past, basically since COVID set in, and everybody hears that all the time, but basically since that all set in, we have used approximately half of our reserves. We were sitting at approximately $750,000 2 years ago. We're now sitting at about half of that. We're down to around 350,000 in reserves. Again, currently our statement is as of we are actually also in the red with what our income currently is. And that is actually looking at a decreased staffing. Currently, we're trying to build our staffing back up. And again, another issue that everybody's facing, of course. But we're trying to improve that and increase our staffing ratio. We're required by the state to have a certain requirements for how many kids per how many staff during waking hours, those kinds of things. And we're trying to replace some of those people and build our staff back up. We currently are only running at 16 placements between the two houses, and we are actually have the capacity to take 20. Excuse me. So we are currently running at a lower level of the number of kids. We are pretty much serving everyone that makes a request to our facilities. However, there's a few times when it gets real tight, especially when we're down in staffing. And when we're down in staffing, we need to build it up, of course. And then when we build it up, we're also looking at a number of expenses that are going to increase over the next few months, which is again going to tap into either income that the youth home can bring in or our reserves and use more of those reserves up.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question.
Yes, Mary.
I have two questions, actually. What's happened with the Green River home is one question.
Okay. Currently, it is up and functioning. We are in the process of seeing what we can do moving ahead, if it's going to be either relocation somewhere in Green River, or if we are looking at the potential of building and adding on to the current facility in Rock Springs. And again, that would be monies. At one time, we had hoped to place some of those reserves towards something like that. And again, like I said, we've had to use some of those reserves now, but we'll have to come up with other funding sources in order to accomplish that, especially if we look at a add-on type of thing with the Rock Springs facility. But currently we are up and running. We've had our licensure people from DFS come in and check everything out as well. And we're okay at this point in time, but again, it's a limited lifespan.
How many kids are in there now?
How many kids?
Yes, please.
Currently, we're carrying 6 kids in that house, and we have 10 in the Rock Springs facility.
Okay, and my second question is, I've been attending the ambulance board meetings, and they're seeing an increase in behavior, mental types of ambulance calls. And I just wondered, how are you interacting with the hospital and serving those youth who may have mental issues? Or are you? Can you, or what?
Right. Kind of where we're at this point in time is we've taken kids, and in our intake process and specifications for how we take kids and what type of kids we can take, we have taken some kids with suicidal ideation, some minor suicidal gestures, those kinds of things. If it gets beyond that, though, then we have to refer to the hospital for at least evaluation, that type of thing. We have been working at, especially recently, I can tell you, we've had a number of children in the past couple of months that we have tried to work at keeping them in the youth home as long as it's safe and feasible with regards to the training of our staff. We also, just so you're aware, we have worked with the hospital at times, nothing, I don't believe recently, but over the past year and in years past, we have worked with the hospital in the sense of if they are releasing a child from, let's say, the Title 25 detention, and there is no other safe placement, guardians, that type of thing that they can be safe with, they will reach out to us, and we have worked with them to take kids in the past that have been released from that type of detention. But I would like to think that we are working, and I know the county and the ambulance committee and all of those different things and the elements are in play too, as far as trying not to refer kids to Title 25 detention if at all possible. So we are working towards that. We're training our staff more actively with regards to suicidal ideation, suicidal gestures, how to intervene in those problems and that process to hopefully, reduce some of that. Again, basically, if it comes down to that there's a threat of their safety at the youth home, we do have to refer at least for assessment. And that assessment is kind of out of our hands. Just so you're aware too, in that process, it's basically at that point in time, a shot that has to be called by the hospital staff or Southwest Counseling's on-call staff. We're not any part of that as far as actually making a detention decision.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to bring it to your attention because we're seeing more indigent repeat offenders and more children.
All right. And I don't doubt that a bit because of what we're seeing as well in the youth home with regards to depressed, suicidal ideation amongst the children we're serving. And I think part of it, and there's some statistics out there, but I think it's yet to be seen and completely evaluated. But I do believe some of that is in response with, one, our society, but also to the whole pandemic thing and some of the isolation some of the children had been secluded to over this whole situation with the pandemic.
Okay, I think it would be good if you could break some of those numbers out for us. I mean, how many Title 25 you take, how many long-term, et cetera. It might be helpful for us to understand how you're using our funding to help reduce that risk.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Doc, what do you have?
Yeah, just for clarification, David, I think what we've been talking about is through the Title 25, which is also dealing with the contract in the state, our crisis beds. Is that correct?
Yes.
How
yes.
many crisis beds do you have there?
We are licensed between the two facilities for a total of 6.
6 crisis beds. Okay.
Right.
And those are available pending that assessment by Southwest Counseling staff in the hospital for least restrictive placement. Is that correct?
Those can be available for that. They're also available for any, actually through the state funding that we get for the crisis placements as well. In the past, how we've operated besides just considering the Title 25 placements or prevention of Title 25, that type of thing, is that we serve the whole community with those crisis placements, which means also that they can be accessed by a parent that currently the child doesn't have really a safe place and they need a timeout from each other, the parent and the child, that the parent can place them with us for, usually we look at between a 2 to 3 day placement, kind of just more as a timeout type of thing. We frequently find out that that's adequate amount of time for probably 90% of the kids. Excuse me again. Also, those crisis placements are available to be utilized by, say, the Department of Family Services. If we're looking at, let's say at 2 o'clock in the morning, law enforcement and DFS has to go out on some kind of a child abuse related intervention, and they need a safe place and the foster home is not available, foster home is not appropriate for whatever reason, that type of thing, then they look at us and they look at those crisis beds or crisis placements with us for that as well.
David, the crisis placements, are they a priority over the parent request or law enforcement or court placements? In our contracting with the State Department of Family Services, usually we end up looking at the crisis placements as well as the court ordered or / group home placements tend to be pushed as a priority to DFS populations, those type of things. But with that said, I can also tell you that there's a large overlap in the number of children that we serve that frequently meet probably what you're directing at to, Commissioner, is that it's the same population majority of the time. It's not like we're really talking 2 separate populations with regards to that. But like I said, when they tie us into a contract and services as well, and granted, I'm not saying that that's totally isolated to the state that we do that, but they do always put in the wording that, you know, that they need to be a priority with their populations that they serve. Thank you, David. And speaking of family placements for timeout, my parents would have paid dearly for those services back in the early 50s. Thank you.
Not for you, for your siblings, right?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Right,
that's what I meant.
Yeah, not you. Right.
Lauren, any questions, comments?
No, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Oh, Roy, sorry.
Sorry, no, it's okay. I just have, David, I want to make sure I understood you right. Do you have people currently living in the Green River home?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't realize, I didn't think it was, okay, thank you.
And 10 in the other.
Any other? Oh, go ahead, Doc.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And David, with regard to that Green River home, I thought you said you had 6 in Rock Springs or 6 in Green River.
Switch that around, right, correctly. We currently have 6 juveniles in the Green River house,
Thank you.
and we have 10 in the Rock Springs house.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Other questions?
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, David. Appreciate your time.
Thank you all. I appreciate all of your time and hard work. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
VIRS, our respite. Who do we have with us today?
I'm here. It's Melissa.
Hey, Melissa, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Oh, so good. Unbelievable. Hard to tell you how good I am.
Oh, good. I have to apologize. My line keeps saying the internet is unstable. So if I start to break up, I am really sorry. I guess the county
okay.
offices do not want me to tell you my spiel.
Doc is unstable all the time, so it's okay.
We're on the same page.
Yeah, we're good.
Well, I am too, but I don't expect it to be on my internet
Right?
showing up.
Broadcast to
But
everybody.
I don't want
This
it
is unstable.
broadcasted.
Melissa, it's
Melissa
not
is
your-
unstable.
It's not your internet sending you a message. It's your internet sending you a message. You're unstable.
I think that's it. As
I
much
do
as I
too.
hate to admit it, I think you're right.
Thanks. Welcome.
Well, VRS is going to just ask what we got last year. We're not asking for any increase. We have had an increase in the amount that it's cost to do things just because of travel. But it's been a while since we have increased the cost to our clients. It's been a couple of years. We've chose to do that instead of asking the county for more money. There's been an increased demand for our services, so we've actually had to cut down or cut back the amount of services we can offer per client, which has been heartbreaking, but that's twofold. It's money and it's also finding quality care providers to provide services. So that's kind of where we stand right now. We'd like to get the fees from those that can afford it. Like I said, we haven't done that for a while. We still are working with hospice, and we just recently asked them for a little pay increase in what they pay us we hadn't changed that in a number of years. So it was time for that to be increased. But that's pretty much where we're at right now.
Okay, so Melissa, last year or this year, I guess currently you're not the youth home, 104,500.
Correct.
So that'll be what you're asking for this year.
Yes.
What are you asking of your clients then? Now you said it was.
So it's a sliding scale fee is what we do now. And so we're going to ask for just 3%. There'll be those who can afford it. There'll be those who cannot. And we will just kind of go from there. Of course, our services are we will provide services whether or not they can afford to pay. So if they cannot afford the 3%, which a lot of them, may go, no, we can't afford that. But there's plenty who are going to say, yes, I'm more than happy to do that.
Great. Thank you. And I will say that Power of the Purse is back in action this year. And I don't know what it's going to look like. I know ticket sales have been brisk, and so we're anticipating a great event and hoping from Deer Trail to be able to donate a substantial amount of money to you for the first time in a few years. So between hospice and respite, you guys are just wonderful assets to our community, and we really appreciate all the work you do. So on that personal business side, we're hoping to actually get you some dollars this year as well to help make up the difference. Other questions?
Well, we really appreciate it.
Go buy a purse. Other questions, comments, concerns? No? Lauren, anything from you?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Well, we're going to let you off pretty easy there, Melissa.
Thank you.
Let me ask this one thing then. Could you briefly just talk about the services that you provide with the money that is, allocated from the county to you?
Oh, absolutely. So our agency does in-home personal care for the elderly and disabled. So we see all ages, not just the elderly. So we do the services that normally are not covered by insurance. So whether it's bathing, meal preparation, helping someone go to the restroom, things like that, shopping, nothing's worse than not having your basic essentials. So we do those kinds of things. And then we also do relief time for primary caregivers, which is a really big one for us. Having a child that I took care of for many, many years, that's something that's very close to my heart, that I understood caregiver burnout. So I get that we need to go in there, let these people go to work, let them, sometimes it's going to a wedding or coffee with friends, or we have one lady who does cards every week. So it's that relief time so that they can go know somebody staying with their loved ones, and they can enjoy themselves without worrying whether or not, their husband who may have Alzheimer's is going to wander off, or, if they are going to be sick. There's just somebody there to help them. So
Thank you.
that's what we do.
Perfect. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Melissa, do you coordinate with the ambulance or with the hospital? Because I know they said they get a lot of repeat calls from people who need help to get up the stairs to go to the bathroom, maybe like 6 or 8 times a week. And it seems that some of those, maybe you would be able to help them so they don't have to call an ambulance out and a fire crew so much.
And the sheriff and the police.
We do with the hospital. We do definitely coordinate with hospital. We haven't had any referrals from the ambulance service, but that is something that I could definitely give them information. One of our RN knows them very well, so I think she can get some information to them.
Yeah, I think it would be productive, because if you have to go to a house 6 or 8 times a week for some kind of basic health care, it doesn't seem like a good use of our ambulances.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? It's like I moved my microphone closer to me, and then I forgot I moved it closer to me. Great. Thank you, Melissa. Appreciate your time and your efforts there. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Events complex. I don't see anybody from that, so we're going to skip them. Oh, the Candy. Hello.
Hello. I actually have Bob Spicer with me also, who's the chairman. Before I start, I'm going to remind Commissioner Wenley that I'm very new to this position and I don't want any hard questions, because that's what you offered for Ruth. So
I'll wait till tomorrow and give you a night to study.
Written responses are required.
I'm going to stick up for Commissioner Wendling and said, we've seen you long enough. You're not doing this.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I just provided you a little brief overview of the events complex. Not that you all aren't super familiar with what we do out there, but just some considerations for our budget. So I know the number is the big question, so I will start there. We actually asked for a little less than we asked for last year. And so the budget mill levy request number is 2.267. That includes our capital projects. I had some conversation with Jean Legursky and Bonnie and Christina, and they asked that we include those in there. So I believe that's about 35,000 less than last year. So budget considerations would be that 56% of our total budget typically comes from the county, or would be this time. We generate 44% with grants, sponsors, admissions, rentals, all of that sort of thing that we do on the property. I listed out the property. Obviously, you guys own the property, so you know what that looks like, but we're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're probably the only place that I can think of around here where you can walk into our indoor arena and ride your horse at 2 a.m. if you choose to do that. Mostly because we don't have any way to lock the building, but that's a whole nother story.
Don't look into that.
Right, no. So we are open all the time. We have 7 buildings on the grounds that we maintain: the exhibit hall, the small hall, rabbit barn, beef barn, indoor arena, the grandstands, and our shop structure. We have 7 equestrian arenas, 1 on Yellowstone Road that you see on the way to the golf course, 2 indoor arenas, 2 grandstand arenas, and 2 jackpot arenas, 360 acres of land, 1,235 campsites, over 1,000 horse stalls, and the 2 motorsports facilities. And then I did make some notes in there about our employees. We're down 6 full-time employees since fiscal year 2021. We are lean and mean right now. And we are subsidizing with some contract labor and some part-time help for the summer, which is when we really are busy. So I listed out those people. I am wanted to clarify for you the 11 maintenance staff that are listed there do maintenance and events. As you know, we do a lot of event setup and event tear down and clean up and those sorts of things. So I'm coming tomorrow to your commission meeting to do a quarterly report where I'll give you some additional numbers. But last year, the economic impact is estimated at just short of $10 million. So if you think about the funding that you provide, you're getting $4.31 return on your investment for every dollar that you provide the events complex. And we do collect state and local taxes on the campground and return those. And new that we have been working really hard on in the last couple of years is partnerships with some other organizations to provide money and or project funding at the complex. So wanted to call out the Sweetwater Events Complex Foundation, which you obviously are familiar with. We had $1 million donation here earlier this year and have started that outdoor pavilion project. Wyoming Horse Racing is starting to do a revenue share program with us. So they're going to start making some investments into the facility. Yes.
No, I'll wait.
Okay. One of the things that we started with just recently is they're doing an engineering safety study of the grandstand structure. That structure has been there since the late 70s without a lot of upgrades. So they're doing a safety inspection of that so that we get in there and make sure all the welds are tight, the bolts are bolted down, things are safe for our constituents and people around here, visitors and the like. Sweetwater Dirt Racing Alliance, which is Care Beach with the stock car track. They provide a lot of services at the stock car track. So a lot of times they will provide manpower or labor. They're buying new speakers for that track. So that offsets the money that we would have to spend here in our budget. And then Rock Springs Motocross is also looking at buying equipment for the motocross track, which would offset ours. So those have been really nice. We also get some grant money from Sweetwater County Travel and Tourism. They help us travel and solicit for large events. That's about $60,000 a year. And we are always working and talking to Christina to get additional grants. Although those have been few and far between. So this next summer, we have 3 large national events starting in July. We have Newmar Motor Coach Rally, 7 days, 500 RV units. In August, we have the Royal Crown Fraternity, which has become a huge horse event out there. It's packed. They do a live stream auction and they live stream all of the events. So it's seen across the country. And then we signed Airstream for next year, which they're hoping to use every campsite that we have available, which will be super nice. So a little additional information about our capital projects. I know you have a capital committee, I guess, that went through some of these, but I'm here to plead my case, our case, that we could use a little bit of extra capital money. So included in our budget is $256,000 in capital expenditures. Those will cover all of those facilities and grounds that I mentioned earlier. So I believe the number 1 project from the committee was number 1 on the list, which is the RV rally site improvements. I would ask that you consider the lighting upgrades in the indoor arena for a couple of reasons. The indoor arena is one of the most utilized places on the grounds. And we have the old halogen style lights. They take about 15 minutes to warm up and turn on. And if for some reason the power bumps or they get turned off, it's completely dark in there until they come back on again. And then we don't really have a heat source in there other than an old oil-filled heater that pumps through ductwork. And so we have investigated some fans to put in there that would keep the heat down in the winter time, and then obviously exhaust the heat in the summertime. So those were the 2 projects that are listed on number 2. So I would encourage you, if at all possible, to look at those and keep those in our budget if you can. Again, if we are generating 44% of our budget, we would generate 44% of those capital projects as well. So that is it, fast and furious. And I know Commissioner Wendling is going to have a bunch of questions. So
I'm going to hold them in case somebody else.
Oh, no. Okay.
I'm going to ask 2 real quick. One, so clarify, straighten me out here, Candy.
Okay.
So last year, I'm looking at budget. We've got an appropriation of 3.89 million.
Total budget.
Total budget. So that's including your revenue that you bring in. Okay.
Correct. So last year, the mill levy allocation was 2.295. 2.295134 to be exact.
Perfect. Okay. And then just with the lighting, I know at a couple of properties that we own that Rocky Mountain Power did a upgrade for us, and we paid up front for a portion of it, and they reimbursed, and it was, we did indoor first, and then we did outside, and we just did outside like a year or two ago.
Yeah, so there are some rebates available. That's part of the other reason that we put that on the list. There are some rebates available right now. It doesn't amount to much, honestly, just because of the light fixtures that have to be in there. But the main arena and the East Arena are just over $40,000 to replace the lights in there. I want to say about 10,000 of that is kicked back. And then the estimated savings is just short of 20 grand a year when we move to the LED light fixtures. So we would save that money in about 5 years, 4 to 5 years.
We're honestly seeing it in just bulbs alone, let alone.
Yeah, that is the last building on our facility, the last main building on our facility that has not been upgraded to LED. So that would be a big deal for us.
Sounds like you're all over the rebate program. Other questions then? Comments, concerns? We're going to let Doc do it.
Can I jump in for 1 minute before you start?
Sure.
I did include in our budget 6% increase for our employees, which is what you guys had agreed to. Also, our maintenance staff, I think I had talked to Commissioner Smith earlier this year and said, I think sometimes they're slave labor. We pay them so little for what they do and the equipment that they run. So we would really like to keep that 6% in there. And that does include the 7.5% for insurance. So we were able to absorb all of that and still come in a little bit less than we were last year.
I'm glad you brought that up, because would you take 3?
No. We will take whatever we can get. Like Devin, I don't get any of that. So I would fight for 6% for our employees.
Would you take 3?
Yeah, Doc, I know you are fair. I have to say.
Hey, I mean,
Should never have shown up.
she got rid of Larry, so that right there is worth
Right.
saying,
So I should save us something, huh?
I
That's
know.
where the savings came.
Okay, just a couple quick questions.
Sure.
And I'm sure they could come up tomorrow too, but maybe not. The horse racing. What, do you have any idea what kind of sharing for the upgrade you're looking at?
I do. They have committed to 100,000 a year for the next 5 years.
And that'll come out of,
That'll come out of their section of what they make with the historical horse racing here in Wyoming. So you guys, the county, the city of Rock Springs, the city of Green River still gets the same amount that they have been getting in the past. And they're just going to provide us with a direct.
we've been getting approximately 3.
You should be getting close to 700,000
Yeah, I
a
was
year
gonna
right now.
say, yeah, 300,000 a couple times a year.
Correct.
So almost 700,000. I don't want to commit my other commissioners to it, but a few years ago, we, as a commission, said, hey, we'd like to see some money going in that direction. So, because I think that horse racing is very valuable, although it may get me in trouble because there's a lot of people that think gambling's bad. And it's bad for my wife, but not for me.
It does return a substantial amount of money, I think, and it comes directly into the county coffers, which is different than some of the other economic impact that we talk about. And we have a 10-year agreement right now with Wyoming Horse Racing. So we have locked them in to be here for 10 years. And right now they're willing to invest in the facility. They're just asking us to do some match. So right now what they're doing is they're providing the materials, we're providing the manpower. That's the match that we have going on. And so that seems to be working really well.
Lauren's not sitting here, but as we do our budget, I think we need to consider out of the money that we get from that, because years ago when that was first brought in, there was a plan that money would go back into, I believe, helping that or helping other things, not just the general fund of the county.
That would be incredible. And that grandstand facility, as I mentioned, it hasn't gotten a lot of love, so it could use some love.
Yeah, it could. And of course, in time, it's going to need replacement too. Yeah, we won't talk. We'll talk about
that right now. Exactly.
So I'm glad to share that with you, but commissioners, let's put that on our radar if you don't mind, please.
We did spend, excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
We did spend a lot of time going through that capital list Gene Legursky had sent out. We did spend a lot of time as a board and staff going through and trying to figure out which projects were important. We tried to come up with about $250,000 a year for the next 5 years, thinking that was probably a decent investment. Nothing major. Obviously, we all know how quickly that goes, but we did try to come up with that and spent a lot of time on those projects.
Yeah, and before I make next comment, I know Commissioner Lloyd wanted to say something. So Roy,
Yeah.
if it's okay with the chairman.
Feel free. No
Hey.
Robert's rules here.
Okay,
Yeah,
Go right
thanks.
ahead.
So, we're running by Jeff's rules, but
Right.
I know we did have that agreement. It was about 2.5 years ago when Eugene Joyce and Larry Lloyd presented. And it was also presented at the city of Rock Springs because we do get a large amount. And our thought was, should we take a percentage of that and give it back to the events complex? Because not only does it help with horse racing, but it helps with the facilities that support the horse racing, which will also bring in other events. So we did decide a couple of years ago, we thought it was important to fold back some of that money back in there. Absolutely, Doc. And I do think it's something we should consider.
And if we do, I think it needs to be earmarked for upgrading for the racing.
Yeah. And it could be, it could be in things that are indirect because if you upgrade the bathrooms with that money, it upgrades the horse racing also. And so, and all that helps bring in tax dollars. And what we're seeing at the events complex is events such as, I'll just be honest, I'm stoked for Airstream. I like Airstream trailers, but we're bringing 700 trailer spots in. Those people are going to shop at our grocery stores. They're going to buy what will probably be $9 a gallon gas at that time. And they're going to be paying for food and other amenities. And so we see an influx from those benefits.
The $9 gas and $10.50 diesel.
Yeah, just ridiculous. Sorry, that's a whole different.
No, I just thank you very much for that. Just a couple more things, Candy, if you don't mind. When I look at the capital projects totaling 256,000, do I read that correct? That 256,000 is coming out of that 2.267?
Correct.
So you're saying 107 and 99, 138 are already kind of figured into that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we worked really hard to try to keep our request at or below what we asked for last year. And so we have done our part to cut where we can and then hopefully absorb some of those with the money.
Yeah, and we need to continue to work with the facility committee because as the new contract came out, we had decided to remind people that the events complex belongs to the commission, the county.
Correct.
And so we need to work with you and not just put it all on your shoulders. So we'll count on the capital committee as well as you guys to help us along and making those decisions and that type of thing, or at least what it is you want for improvements and that type of thing. So I appreciate that. The other thing, where's my note? Okay, that's good. That's good. I'm sorry, commissioners. I know you need to get home and want to watch the basketball game. Oh, by tomorrow, here's what I'd like to have from you.
Okay.
Okay. Homework assignment.
We have an economic impact at an estimated of 9,774,000. Okay, some way and how I want you to bring to us a way or formula in which a part of that 9.77 that's coming into the community can be channeled into the county general fund, please.
Okay.
Because if we're going to say we're impacting by that and use that as our reasonings for selling, which I think is good, I think the county deserves some administration fee on all
right.
that. Don't you?
That's the
Can you
state
have
and
a
local
formula
tax
for
that
me
we
by
pay.
tomorrow.
I will work on that.
All right. And
I
one
will
last
work on that.
question. One last question. Do we charge? I think we do, but maybe not in all instances. Do we charge a user fee for any of the facilities out there?
We do. We do. And I have some of that broke down for you tomorrow.
For tomorrow?
So we have a lot of community service groups, 4-H, FFA, any of the safety organizations, any of the other public service groups that we work with, city, county, we do not charge them. However, any of the Muley Fanatics, Home and Garden Show, those types of things.
What about the use of the arena and that type of thing and those things?
We do have an hourly rental for the arena if you want to have it to yourself. If you want to go down there and ride just on a public ride night, we do have free time as well. So we sort of have a combination of both. And that's what we've tried really hard to do. And the board has worked really hard to keep those rental rates affordable so that most people in the county can afford them. We do get a little pushback always, right? My tax money goes to this. I shouldn't have to pay anything, but we try to have a balance in
Well,
there.
and your answer to that is, there's a lot of tax money that goes, there's a lot of people's tax money that goes into that aren't using it.
I think I've just went to telling them to bring me their tax rolls and I'll take off that amount right off the top of their bill because it
Oh,
doesn't amount to much. So
Pittance, my dear, pittance. Anyway, no, I appreciate it. But anyhow, in all gestures, thank you very much. Glad you showed up.
thank you.
Thanks. See you tomorrow.
Chairman?
Yes.
Oh, If you're through, Doc.
I'm done.
I guess I would have some concern with the fuel prices on those motor coach rallies. Those things suck a lot of gas.
Agreed. And I'll talk about this tomorrow too, but right now their spaces are sold. So these people had reserved in advance. Now, that doesn't mean that they'll show up. I mean, there still may be some cancellations down the road. So we'll keep an eye on that. But I do have some RV numbers from last year. And at the Travel Industry Coalition meeting in Cheyenne with the governor here a few weeks ago, they expect those to be high again this year. So I think we'll see people traveling, but boy, I don't know. You're right. I mean, you see people that are spending, $1,500 to just gas up their coaches and move around. So I'm just going to try to get them to get here and then stay longer. That's my plan. So we have stay and play packages. So we're going to say, listen, you're coming all this way.
Already here.
Stay here a month because we have
Destination.
cheap gas.
Destination. Yeah. And from what I'm reading and looking at the maps for destination here, there's a big, huge red line that's recommended to go by the Tolman Ranch because there's
No.
gas
now calm
available
down.
there.
Nice.
Sorry, Mary.
We'll send them south to the Dickinson Ranch.
Right.
What did you say?
Let's send them south to the Dickinson Ranch.
Well, that's out there by, no, we'll have 2 big routes. What do you think, Gene?
Yeah, my last guess fuel bill for the ranch was $6,000.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. We have seen that. We obviously have fuel tanks on the property and we have lots of equipment that we run to do things. And those, we tried to factor all it in, but I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I watched Mr. Legursky talk to you guys, Regina Legursky talk to you about that. And we're all just shooting in the dark right now on some of those expenses.
Everybody is.
Candy, can I ask you with the capital improvements of 256, are those already included in the budget for the capital
They are.
expense?
They are included in our request of the 2.267. I don't know where that works on your end as far as
No,
the committee goes.
Yeah, I think the committee just would recommend the projects, but you got a good point.
I did ask
Remember-
that question. Bonnie told me to put all 3 of them into our budget. And then you guys would adjust if you decided not to fund those. So I did put all 3 of
You know
those
what
in
my preference is?
to fund them all.
Well, to fund them all, but they come out of yours.
Roy, do you remember? Is that
Tough.
in there?
What's that? Yeah.
That's a good one.
256, is that in the capital expense budget?
I can't remember what we have in there.
I was just wondering if all 3 are there.
I know the
Well, how we work that capital committee, Jeff, is we just rank the projects that are brought to us.
Yeah.
And then the commission will make a decision. We have X amount of dollars to go into capital projects.
Mhm.
And then we fit it into what the capital project list is. So if we say we can fund, I don't remember off the top of my head. So if we said there were only $3 million of projects on there and we said we can fund 3.2, of course, we'd fund them all. And I think one of the things that could change next year when we start looking at capital, it may not be a full year of expenditure provision. It may be with us with the ad valorem and it coming in monthly. It may become, we're going to do 1 through 4 now, and then wait to see what the taxes roll in with the ad valorem. And then we can do 5, 6, 7. So really it depends. And I can't remember where your projects landed, but I can look that up, Candy.
I believe number 1, the RV rally site improvements ranked very high because those were commitments that we'd made for those RV groups. And the other 2 were a little bit down on the list. I would just say the 3 that are on there are in the order that we would want them in. So if it's possible to fund the lighting, but not the wood building siding, I think we can make those work, but
I just wanted to make sure we weren't looking
Double.
at this as well as,
Right.
our capital looks,
yeah,
substantial.
that is included in that 2.267.
Great. Okay.
We'll watch it.
Okay.
Now that we've noted, and that's one of the nice things about the informal conversations we're having is so we know the little nuances we need to look at when we look at the big picture.
Good. Any other questions, comments?
I have one more piece of feedback on your form.
Yes.
But difficult for us just because we don't have different service
Yeah.
programs. I had talked to Commissioner Toman. I don't know if you had an idea of how you wanted us to do that since there were 4 service programs on there, but I just adapted the form.
That's fine.
So I just made the one service program and expanded it so I could actually type out some information in there. So I don't know.
Well, and
Commissioner Toman said there was no wrong way to fill it out, so I just did it.
Well, and and we did get some feedback, and we tried to make some of those changes and adjustments to that form. And like Commissioner Wendling said, this is a living document. And but I will tell you, I think it's a better start from the previous forms we've had in the past. I think it's going to give us better comparative information. And I think we've already heard that we need to make it fillable, not smaller to the point of not reading it to meet the box. So that's something we've learned.
Yeah, the rest of the form was great. Honestly, that was the only issue we had, is that I know like the Y has several different service programs and we didn't have that side of things. But otherwise, I thought the new form worked really well.
And the whole purpose of that too was to be able to break it down. Chairman Wendling asked earlier, tell me how much goes into, to the YWCA, how much goes into the battered women's group, how much goes into this. It's so we can tell where we're putting the money in case we believe the allotments deserve to be higher in one area than the other.
Well, you could maybe, like you probably did, adapt the form. Might not be service areas. It might be county fair versus this, that.
Right. Yeah. So hopefully it will work well and we'll get that turned into, I just got back from vacation, so I have to run the reports and then I'll get it turned over.
Perfect.
You have to stay up all night.
I know.
Went easy on you though, didn't I?
Perfect. Thank you, Candy. Appreciate your time.
Hey, Candy.
Somehow we got behind on
Candy.
our schedule.
At least there won't be any blood in the streets, right?
No, I hope not.
Okay.
Library. Apologize for keeping you waiting. But we're happy to see you here.
Right. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
I'm Lindsay Travis. I am the new director for the Sweetwater County Library System. So
Congratulations.
please go easy on me as well. I also brought Leora Kraft, our business manager, with just in case I can't answer some of the questions. So I just wanted to start with a little bit about the library system. We have 9 facilities that we operate. We have the 1 in Green River, 2 in Rock Springs. And then we also have 6 in rural communities throughout the county. We also have the Community Fine Arts Center and the Children's Discovery Center that are within the Rock Springs Library. So we operate a pretty big operation. Since 2010, we've had a 27% decrease in overall staffing, but we continue to be pretty busy in the libraries, especially right now. Post-pandemic, people are really happy to be there. When I left the library this afternoon, there were a lot of people in there. So a little bit of information about how many people we have coming in. The last month we had 1,200 people in attendance at children's events. We had 1,300 people visit the Children's Discovery Center. We have 30,000 or more card holders for the library system. And then last month we had 16,000 physical items checked out and more than 4,000 digital items checked out. And our meeting rooms get used more than 100 times per month. So we're pretty busy. And especially right now, like we were slow for a while when we didn't have programs because of the pandemic, but now we got a lot of people coming in, but we're feeling it when it comes to our staffing levels because we've reduced by so much. We also we can't pay. We don't have a competitive pay right now. I have a couple jobs advertised right now, and we're struggling to just get people to apply because we cut down our full-time positions by 52% over the past decade. So most of our jobs at the moment are part-time. So what we are asking for is a 6% cost of living adjustment for staff, the cost to cover health insurance increases, and then some money to help restore some of the personnel hours that were cut over the last fiscal year. And also we need to reinstate some training because we have had some staff turnover. We have new people. We need to get them trained in their jobs. So our total budget request is $3,048,400, which would bring us back to the same level that we had in fiscal year 21. So that's a 9.9% increase.
And this current year, Maybe you can tell me faster than I can look it up.
This current year, we had
Oh, six.
$2,773,400. So this would just reinstate what we had the year before, 9.9% increase. Most of the funds go to personnel. That's our biggest cost when it comes to staffing the libraries.
Very familiar. Good. Questions that we may have?
Just a comment, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, I want to commend both, knowing that the events complex and the library representing, I thought I could kind of tie this into one. I think both of these organizations have shown a great partnership with us over the years. When you look at the decrease in positions, Candy, they now have 2 administrative positions in the entire events complex. Lindsay just talked about being down 52% of full-time employees in the last decade. And when Leora and I first looked at the budget request form, and she was one of my guinea pigs, as was Candy. So thank you both. We talked, Leora said, why am I only going back 5 years to show the efficiencies of what we've done? If you go back 10 years, this is what you're going to see. And I think both organizations have shown a great job in how to reconfigure and try to keep going businesses and providing services. And I think that should be commended. I also think this becomes an interesting conversation as you talk about reinstating the 6%. We heard Candy too, because it's a quandary because the economy is changing so much. And I ran a nonprofit for a lot of years, and for up until 4 years ago, that nonprofit paid $9.50 an hour to hire employees. You were begging, borrowing, pleading, and anything to get employees. That same organization 3.5 years later is now paying $14.50 an hour, and they're still not competitive. And so I think there's a fine line. And then we also heard Ruth Lauritsen talk about at the senior center, their inability to give insurance is really making it very difficult to maintain employees. So I think that's some really interesting things we have to look at as a commission as we look at these things is what's our responsibility in that area. But it is dire because if things can be done, you may not be able to fund, the staff places. But you both have shown an exceptional method of getting efficient and cutting back staff to bare bone concepts. So I just wanted to make that comment in general.
Thank you. I did want to say that we have reduced our service hours at the libraries by 13 hours per week. So it has gone down significantly as well as we've reduced staff. And we have had community members comment on that. We're not open as late, and it's hard when school is out early or later in Rock Springs and we can't stay open later because we can't staff it. So it really is being able to restore some of the hours that we have for personnel and to be able to pay them what they're worth, I think is very important when it comes to staffing the library.
Well, how would if this budget request were granted, how would that affect hours, services? What, give a plan of like, we're going to be able to, some of those 13 hours, how many?
I'm not sure yet if we'll be able to restore any of the actual service hours. We are always looking at them to see when we should be open and the best hours to be open. We might be able to do a little bit, but with the amount of decrease we've had over the past decade, I don't know that we'll ever get back to the same level that we had 10 years ago.
Sure. Other questions at all? Mary, did you have one?
Well, I guess it's huge. A huge complex. I mean, how do you see going into the future? Do you think you can keep it together? I guess.
Well, we're gonna try. Definitely. I think we can keep it together. Our libraries, like I said, are very well used. The 2 facilities in Rock Springs, people go to their libraries. They go to the people who live downtown, go to the downtown library. And now that we've added other services in there, like the Children's Discovery Center, and of course we have the Community Fine Arts Center, it's a really fun complex to go to. There's just so much going on. And yeah, I think we have to keep it together. People use the libraries for more than checking out books. And I know that stereotypically people think that's what the library is, but the library is a community center. And it's a place for kids, especially to hang out after school. We get lots of middle school age kids and younger just at the libraries after school. It's a safe place for them to be. And reducing any more would hurt those kids, I think, because they don't have a safe place to go.
School district help you with the Fine Arts Center?
We
Do they
get
help fund that?
We get $10,000 a year from the school district. And we get a little bit of funding from the city of Rock Springs as well that just goes to the Rock Springs Library and the Community Fine Arts Center, but it's pretty low dollars. They've cut us significantly over the years as well.
Lindsay, or
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Lindsay, what, do you get anything from the school district? Because that art collection and that fine arts center primarily focuses around school district 1.
Yep, that's, we get the $10,000.
Thousand. I didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
Other questions, comments?
Have you, oh, I know what. Have you requested more than that from them?
I don't know that we have, not, Leora might know, but I don't think we have. No. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's their art collection.
That's true.
Yeah, we're paying liability on it. I think you need to start hitting them, and if they got questions, they can come see us.
Yep, we can certainly ask. There's no
Certainly, they
harm
can't
ever
do
in
it.
asking. So
But just remind them it's theirs.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, Linz, thank you. Appreciate your time.
thank you.
Welcome aboard again. Yeah. We'll do this again next year. It'll be fun. On to Southwest Counseling. We have Melissa on board. Melissa, haven't seen you since last week. Oh, we've got Linda as well. I haven't seen you since last week either.
Right. Are we ready?
So ready?
Okay.
Bring it on.
First of all, thank you very much for this opportunity, but I have to give the county commissioners a brief history of how Southwest Counseling began. And believe it or not, it was 60 years ago in 1962. And we were called the Sweetwater County Counseling Service. And then in 1964, we became Southwest Counseling, still a part of the county. And the reason we were called Southwest Counseling at that time is we were also the counseling center for Lincoln and Sublette. So there was a joining together of resources. But I think what's so phenomenal about that information is that was 60 years ago when mental illness and substance disorders were not a high priority for any person, or there was a lot of shame attached to mental illness and a lot of shame attached to substance disorders. And 60 years later, we are still fighting stigma. But we know today that mental health is critically important for your overall health. And that as a result of that, the county commissioners that preceded you, we owe a great deal of gratitude to, as well as this county commissioners, because without those early beginnings, it started with one psychologist, and I don't even know if that psychologist had a secretary until later, but today we have 148 employees, and we provide instrumental services to Sweetwater County and probably touch the majority of agencies that deal with children, adolescents, and adults. Now, our budget is a very tentative budget at this time. We're looking at a $1.3 million reduction from the state, which we hope that will change as we get accurate dollar reflections into us. But our request last year was at $590,488. And another request that we had with the detention center was $50,000 for the jail-based treatment that we did. And that was just folded into that contract of $590,000. So this year we're proposing $650,468. And can I tell you where those monies will be allocated? Because I think that's really important for the county commissioners to know. First of all, our on-call 24-hour, 7 days a week by a master's level clinician that does all Title 25 in the county. And the majority of those are going to be held at Sweetwater Memorial Hospital. Some have been held at the county detention center, but Southwest Counseling is involved as the therapist that goes in and makes the assessment. Why is that important? The county is liable for the first 3 days of that detention. And then if it goes further than that, then the state does pick up the dollar amount. In those first 72 hours, though, our therapists are in there and they assess them on a daily basis. And if we can release and place them in crisis stabilization, which is another service we look at. Crisis stabilization is for acute situations that the person cannot go home or is unable to go home, and that we can release from a title, or we can avoid a title altogether and just go right into crisis stabilization. Now, those beds are really limited. And I will tell you right now, crisis beds is a priority for the state. And they have a group of people at the state level, and the WAMSAC individuals, providers are working with them. But we're kind of landlocked with our beds, because Southwest Counseling now has a little over, I think, 131 beds in Sweetwater County alone in mental health and in substance disorders. And so, with those beds alone, we're diverting a lot of people away from the hospital, away from the detention center, because it just makes better sense. If a person can be served in their community, they will do so much better than they will in a hospital that will release them at the top, maybe 30 days. But there are longer lengths of stays for inpatient hospitalization too. That's also true. So Title 25 is where your money's first going to go. And then I would say it would go into jail-based treatment, because jail-based treatment, we've been doing it for 10 years now. And jail-based treatment is really an important, we have a captivated audience. They can't go anywhere. And if we get them assessed and we get them placed in there and they're willing to do that, then it's just a natural for us to do men and women treatment there. Now, during COVID, it was really difficult. It was difficult to get Zoom in there because they didn't want the inmates to be coming together. But we're back up. We are working. The other issue with that, and I'll be quite frank about it, their female population does not always stay at a group level because they move in and out so quickly. But jail-based treatment is very much a part of what the county dollars go to. The other thing that's really important to us is just providing general outpatient mental health and substance abuse disorders. The majority of people we see, we are on a sliding fee scale, but the majority of people that we service are 300% below poverty. So the poorest of the poor come to Southwest Counseling, and we do have people that have insurance and they do quite well with us. But the reason that we have a sliding fee scale is because of the dollars that we receive from the state. So that's also an important part of that. The other important part of that is psychiatric services. That's probably one of the most expensive services that Southwest Counseling provides. And to tell you the truth, it's also the most difficult because Sweetwater County does not have a psychiatric person in the county. And we are probably one of the largest counties, then it's just not feasible to do that. But so those are some of the areas that your dollars do go to. But I think the diversion is unbelievable of what we do in crisis work in this community. We do a lot of crisis. Commissioner Tolman was talking about increases in the ambulance, increases for mental health. We are going to see a real uptake in that because mental health, in terms of anxiety, depression, people are just angry today. And I think they're angry over the pandemic. They're angry that they're seeing larger bills. They're seeing less availability of their money to meet their needs. So there's a wide variety of issues out there. And I will tell you, I think Southwest Counseling as a service provides an outstanding service for this community. We just had our CARF surveyors and they could not believe what Southwest Counseling was able to do with so little other resources for us in this community. And what they were talking about was psychiatric services. They know that we went from, in 1990 was the first time in the state of Wyoming that we had a residential treatment program for substance abuse. Today, we are well above 53 beds for substance abuse alone. And so you can see, if you did a chronological look at Southwest Counseling, we always start off really low, really slow, really little, but we continue to grow with the demands of our community. And we have what's called open access, where a person can just show up and see if we have the availability to get them into service. We attempt to get everyone into service. So Monday through Thursday, 1 to 4, we have a variety of clinicians ready to roll. And today, and this is not unusual, we had 10 brand new intakes today. So we are seeing an uptake from the pandemic. We never closed during the pandemic. We did not think that was appropriate for a mental health treatment facility to say there are no mental health issues during the pandemic when we knew it was going to get worse. So we are asking for an increase. I think it's 9% increase, but the previous year we had taken a 20% decrease from the county. So I could talk forever about Southwest Counseling because I'm so proud of the services that the employees really deliver every day for this community.
Questions for Linda? That means you did a good job, I guess. If you don't have any questions, it's a great presentation. Doc, you got something? Here it
Sure
comes.
do.
All right.
Just
good.
let,
I was afraid there wasn't going to be
let some of
anything.
the other commissioners ask questions.
Excellent.
Hopefully they'd ask mine. I wouldn't have to ask theirs.
It's all you.
Hey, Linda,
Okay,
will you take 4.5%?
4.5, 4.5 what? Of what?
Percent, less 4.5% instead of 9%.
Oh, of an increase? Oh my goodness.
I know.
Well, you know, I gotta give Commissioner Smith a little bit of a hard time. He
All
says,
right,
go
do it.
ahead, ask for it at the board meeting. Just go ahead, ask for it. And so we were there, okay. And so the board said, okay, let's ask for it.
Sure. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, on another note, you listed these services using the county dollars. In our contract, are there other services listed that the money is directed to?
We still are doing that. And when you get our outline, they're in there.
Okay.
Social detoxifications in there, crisis stabilizations in there. Psychiatric services is in there. Everyone that was in the previous one has continued this year. Am I right, Melissa? I think I'm right on that.
Hello, Commissioners. Melissa Ray Marchetti, Southwest Counseling Service CFO. To address Linda's question, yes, you are correct. Those are the ones that are in there. And to add to that, it was very hard on the form to fit all of the narrative of those services into those little tiny boxes. So again, as one of the earlier individuals spoke of, it's very condensed and cut down. So some of that has been left off. So if there are questions, please reach out.
Good to hear.
Thank you, Melissa. So I think it might be good if Melissa would touch base with probably Mr. De Leon and make sure that we have, if there's any additional services listed in your contract, so that we write that contract based on statutes as well as services. Linda, do you object to that? Melissa, are you okay with that?
That would be fine. And we do use our county funding to do our match for the state funding that we receive.
Sure.
And I think, Melissa, if I'm not wrong, the county presently provides 4% of our budget.
Correct. Commissioners, Linda, the current fiscal year FY22, the subsidy that we received from the mill levy comprises of 4% of our overall actual revenues, not just what we have budgeted on the expense side. We do have to actually utilize our carryover and some reserves to balance our budget and go ahead and cover our expenditures. So yes, that does make up 4%. The proposed or the requested 650 that Linda had mentioned would bring that up to just about 5%, just under.
Thank you. Linda, question for you. I know we reworked your contract a little bit this last year, if I'm not mistaken, and was a little late coming together. Is there anything in that contract that's missing?
That you
needs to be
find,
in there?
no, I think we've covered fairly well everything. I think one of the issues was with social detox. And with social detox, you have to have a medical clearance before you can come into social detox. But I think that contract reads fairly fine right now.
Okay, if we run across anything, we'll let you know, okay?
That'll be fine.
All right, thank you very much. Thanks, Melissa. Have a good one, both of you.
Other
See ya.
questions? Well, don't go anywhere yet.
Oh, okay. I want to get to that game.
Come on now. Questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Linda, you heard my concerns earlier. Going to the ambulance board meetings, we're just seeing a repeat, indigent behavior type problems. And the ambulance people, I can't speak for them, but I think it's frustrating to them because they feel like these people are not being treated, so they don't have to keep calling the ambulance. Or maybe some of them need to be referred to home health care or whatever. But I think there are behavior problems that could be addressed to decrease that ambulance load, which we're paying for.
Sure. And I understand that, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Tolman. One of the things I think you are going to see, because we try to identify people that we see on Title 25, they get titled, we provide them services, they go back into the community, but then they drop out of services with Southwest Counseling. And that's one of the complexities of having a behavioral health issue. You don't necessarily have to adhere to the recommendations of your treatment plan or your goals. And you will see these repeaters because they go into crisis. And I think we're going to see more of that, to tell you the truth. We've seen an uptick in the on-call for emergency services with us. And one of the things is to break down the isolations of these people. And a lot of them, quite frankly, they get really angry at Southwest Counseling because we do title people and they feel like that's taking their freedom away, which it is. And then they don't want nothing to do with us until the next crisis. But we certainly, we respond to anyone who is suicidal. We're always going to the hospital if the hospital makes a request. But I think the community as a whole probably is going to have to come together and say, what can we do for these people? And sometimes it needs to be another helping hand, a listening person. And a lot of these people are living purely in isolation.
Thank you.
It's very sad.
Any other questions, comments? Lauren?
Go ahead. I'll wait till Lauren's now.
No, I appreciate the work that Southwest Counseling has done, and especially during the pandemic. And I appreciate everything tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Doc?
Yeah, just one more thing. Hey, Linda, I just checked. We got an hour and 4 minutes before that game starts. So let's hang on and see how long we can go. What do you say?
Okay, I got a lot more information to share with you, but let's not be late for the kickoff.
Thanks, Linda. Appreciate it. And appreciate what you and Melissa and your staff do out there.
Thank you so much.
I can totally say that there is much longer discussions at board meetings, so you're welcome to attend those. They're great.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Melissa. Melissa, tell Cody to quit dodging my calls and to call me back or my texts.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
commissioners.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Next up, we have request items to be discussed at next meeting. Do we want anybody else in? I made this list today, and I did this off of generally anybody we funded over $100,000.
I was wondering what your rationale was. That would have helped if you had told us that.
Well, there you go.
Because it seemed like a hodgepodge.
Little hodgepodge here
I
and
was
there
trying
and
to
everywhere.
figure out your rationale.
So pretty much everybody that we funded over $100,000, that's who I asked to come in and visit with us so that we could, I mean, not that, $8,400 is nothing to Big Brothers Big Sisters, but in the grand scheme of our budget and our time and everything, I don't know that we needed to hammer that out and hash that out until, if we do have questions when we get the request, then we can certainly invite more people in. But the next meeting, I was thinking it would be more of a workshop amongst us, as we have the requests in, and a budget proposal more finalized, unless there is some other entity that you'd like to visit with before we get that far along.
I think Christina wanted to talk to us at some point about the ARPA on one of the sessions. And then what about the commissioner's budget?
Commissioner budget looks great. I don't know.
Well, I think we need to be realistic and not tell people that to make a budget and come in for budget amendments. I think we need to be realistic as to what we think they're going to be. Not take a 20% cut and then have to come in here for a budget amendment.
Sure. No, and I think from everybody we visited with in our 3 sessions, I think everyone has been generally very honest and exact as they can. I mean, like you mentioned with fuel prices, that's a huge thing that's out there. Who knows what insurance will do? There are variables in there for sure. But I think we kind of made that point of, yeah, ask us for what you need. Don't ask us for way less and then come back. So I think from our visits, I think it's been very forthright and honest.
Let's do the commissioner's budget at the start of the next budget meeting.
We can do that. Anybody else you want to visit with besides the commissioner?
Jeff, and maybe I missed something. Have we had the museum present to us, because they are over 100,000? Maybe we should have them present, because they are, I think, around
355. I think we didn't have them because I probably have my notes somewhere. We did. Let me look before I say something stupid. Whoops! I do that a lot already.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
while you're looking, I was just going to ask for the opportunity to request or bring this up again after we get all of the requests in, just so that if there's anything that looks goofy or off or that we need some answers to, we can request that at that point in time.
Yeah, that's probably good because we haven't received those April 8th outside entities budgets yet.
So what was the question? You want to?
If they seem out of.
Reserve the right.
Oh, to request people come back. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. 100%.
Or pull in any that we haven't talked to yet. I haven't seen them yet. And so I don't know if there's any additional ones. I want to have the chance to review those and then bring them back in if we need to, or bring them in initially if we need to.
True. Is the 355? I think that's all from the mill levy. Maybe is that true? I can't remember why. And I can't find my note. Anyway, there's a reason that I didn't ask them to come in, but I don't remember. If you'd like to visit with them, that'd be great.
I think if we were seeing most agencies over 100, I don't think it would be hurt to hear what they're presenting and going from.
That's why we didn't do like combined communications, because we really.
Well, unfortunately, at this point with the contract, hey, it is what it is. So.
Exactly. So, okay. We'll ask museum to come visit us. We'll talk commission next time, and then we'll perhaps work through we will work through the budget requests that are there, and we'll have Christina in as well. Okay. Anything else for next meeting?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
And this may be something that we can talk about after next meeting, but I want to note it because I'll forget if not.
Fair enough.
But I wonder if maybe we could build out this grant application in a Microsoft Forms template or something like that, that doesn't it won't disable the formatting. It allows for a ton of text, and it then also will put it into Excel spreadsheet and some other easily documented and workable documents for us to
Agreed.
work with. So I think that would maybe be a step in the right direction.
Sure.
We can definitely take a look at that, Lauren. And I would agree.
However, there was one method to our madness. If we limited how much they could say, then we would be able to read them all.
That's right. I can't read what this says. We're just going to be able to give them nothing. So very good. I've got that written down as well. Anything else before we adjourn? Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'd so move.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Very nice.